Jim, walk number 37 on Saturday night. I guess Cowboy will probably tie you again later this year when he fights. But, I mean, does it mean something to you every time when you keep pushing that record out there?
It does. My goal is to get to 40. That's my first goal. And I know that if I get to fight as often as I want to, I probably would already be at 40. This will be like 6 months in between fights, and that's too long for me. I prefer closer to 3. Like I said, my goal is 40, and we'll see where I'm at when I get there. Each one of these is one step closer to 300. It'd be really awesome to fight on 100, 200, and 300. I at this moment, none of the stats or any of the record stuff, like it doesn't really drive me that much. Getting the opportunity to fight the best inside the octagon is really what motivates me and keeps me coming back.
Have you done the math on the UFC 300 thing? What would you be about, 40, 41, something like that?
It all depends on how long, how far away it is. I think it would, if I was fighting at the pace that I wanted, it'd probably be 45 or more.
No, I meant your age though.
Yeah. I probably another 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, 41, 42.
You touched on, you said the records. I mean, we talked to Frankie Edgar last week, right? He has the most octagon time of all time. And I asked him, and he's like, I don't know if Ironman records really the records I want to be known for. But what do you think? I mean, it is pretty damn special to have as many fights as you have, right? I mean, do you take pride in it, or do you also say, I wish I was known for something more than just the Ironman?
It's something that, there are nearly 8 billion people on this planet, and it's like there aren't going to be many that get 40 fights in the UFC. There aren't many that have 20 wins in the UFC. There aren't many that have got to 30 fights in the UFC. So it puts me in an elite group. Like the whole group of guys that are over 30 fights. It's cool. Like you said, it's not like the greatest thing ever, right? You'd rather be the Khabib that comes in, goes undefeated, and hangs them up. But there's also that side of me that's like, man, like he only fought like a dozen times in the UFC. That's not a lot. I enjoy fighting. I enjoy the opportunity every time that I get to fight, right? It's an opportunity that there are thousands upon thousands of, fighters that never get that opportunity and never earn that opportunity. And I was able to earn it and make the most of it. So it's cool, like I said, but it's not something that like while it's going on, I'm like, yeah, this is the greatest thing ever, and really motivating me.
I know you said you would have liked a quicker turnaround. What did you take out of your last fight? I mean, obviously a hard-fought one, didn't go your way, but I mean a solid fight to say the least. What did you take out of that one?
I keep telling myself, like when I have one of these fights, I just did a podcast yesterday with Joe Lozon and Eze Edwards, and we watched our first fight, and I was like, at the end of that fight, that's the most tired I've ever been. And then I had the Healy fight. And and then I had like that last fight. That it was a shorter notice one. I was doing 10, 11 5-minute rounds. In the 2 weeks that I had leading up to it, I was in shape. Not great full fight camp shape, but a full fight camp for me is like 4 weeks at this point. So I expected to be a little fatigued, but I went out. I had a good first round. I won the first round, and I was done. I remember walking back, and it was just like, oh shit. I know what this feeling is like, and I don't really know why. Vince kept the pressure on, and he stole it from me. Winning those last 2 rounds. So. Yeah, like I was so fatigued that I ended up starting to vomit and couldn't stop myself, and then I started throwing up blood, and that continued, 10 minutes into the ambulance drive to the hospital. So it was kind of like one of those things, like, oh, shit, what's wrong? We ran some tests, we didn't find anything that really stuck out. So it was like, okay, well, now we're gonna, I'm a 37-year-old professional fighter. Let's take a step back and let's start being a little bit more scientific about this. Like I was just telling the DC and Anik and everybody on that call, it was like, I used to be able to, everything that I did was conditioning. It didn't matter what I was doing. If I was getting the groceries from the truck, I was doing lunges to the house, like everything was go, go, go. And, at 37, it's not like that anymore. Like it really isn't. And I have to take the extra steps of doing, that, working on that base level cardio now that I didn't have to earlier in my career because, like I said, everything was 100%. Now it's like if I need to do a round or two less, I can do that. I can say, okay, today's not the day to empty the tank. So, I've been working on, building the cardio base up for the last 4 or 5 months, and I feel like I'm in fantastic shape and been tracking heart rate and sleep and all that stuff. And you can see the data that I'm in great shape and continuing to get better. So, I'm just trying to be more mature about it and, like, deal with being an aging athlete. So it sucks, but that's the way it goes if you're going to stick around this long.
Yeah. So how long exactly did you know about this fight? Because it was a really late announcement, but I know sometimes things happen behind the scenes that we don't hear about. So, I mean, with all the things that you said about taking a late notice fight, is this a late notice fight, or had you had more knowledge than we did?
I think I had just under 4 weeks. So I think everybody considers that, late notice, short notice. Like I enjoy 6 weeks. Like if I get a fight on 6 weeks notice, it's like, okay, I can go hard, for 5 weeks and come into fight camp in shape, ready to go. I'd like 8 weeks, but it's just the way that it works these days is that I never get that opportunity. So, I was asking back in September to get lined up for a fight just so that I had some notice. And things never came together, and so then it was kind of like I started hitting, December, and I was like, I better start training like there's a fight in 3 weeks because there could be one, and it's kind of like what happened.
Very nice. The last thing for me, I mean, at this point in your career, you've obviously seen it all, done it all, but Bobby's a really interesting matchup, right? The way he fights. So, I mean, what do you think about what he does in the cage, and what kind of matchup this is going to provide for you?
He's got a very interesting style, and I prepared to fight him in 2014, and it's a different look. So I didn't get the opportunity really to do much game planning for that this time around, but when it comes to fighting and when I'm at my best, it's being me. So, it really doesn't matter what the other person brings to the table. It's about being me and fighting my fight. Like I said, I trained to fight him. I've seen him fight a dozen times. Been a fan of his. I'm intrigued by his fights. I want to see how it goes. I want to see how people fight him and what he does. So, I'm excited because it's another guy that's been around for a long time. And that gets me excited. It adds an extra little dynamic to the fight, So, I'm pumped for Saturday to come.
Hey Jim, you were saying that you want this many weeks or this many weeks, stuff like that. Is there lessons you've just learned over time in the sport that you wish you knew in training camps at the beginning of your career?
There's definitely a lot of things that I've learned. Some of the biggest lessons have been not overdoing it. I've been fortunate enough to I've been lucky and stupid, tough, whatever you want to call it, enough to not pull out of a fight. But I've definitely been injured, going into fights. And I definitely deal with injuries that I've sustained by doing too many hard sessions, every week. So like that's kind of one of those things. It's like that's why when I've got I think I had like 12 or 13 weeks leading up to my fight with Diaz, and it was difficult because it's like, okay, start slow, right? Like work on the basics, get the reps in, and don't come in first day 3 months out and go berserk like it's fight night. So yeah, I mean, like the biggest lesson I think is just being able to train hard but mitigate the risk and not like sparring is fun. It really is. It's pretty much everybody loves to do it, but you gotta weigh the benefit and the risk and yeah. So like that's why for me it's like a couple weeks is okay. Well, I'm in shape. I'm ready to turn it up, and I only need a few weeks to really kind of push myself to get to that point where it's like fight ready.
Is it kind of a weird paradox where you learn that lesson, and lots of fighters learn that lesson, but the fact is that young men are always going to be too aggressive earlier on in their careers anyway?
It is, because I mean, you try to tell it to everybody, hey, you don't need to be sparring like this, more than once a week, and if you're out of fight camps, maybe once every 2 weeks, because you only get one brain, and shit happens, right? So you definitely I've been injured in fights. I've had things happen in fights that I needed to get therapy and stuff like that, physical therapy afterwards. But like I said, a majority of the injuries that I've sustained in the last 15 years have been from training. So yeah, it's a conversation that you almost have weekly with guys. Like, why are you? Like, I just saw you on social media sparring yesterday. What are you doing here today? Because that's what we're doing. Like, you don't need to do that.
Do you look at those stories that we hear about CTE and brain trauma going forward for guys later in their lives? Do you look at that and think, man, people in this sport need to become educated about that very quickly, or else we're going to see a lot of those stories as this sport gets older?
I think we do. I definitely think we do. And the worst part is that it's hard. It's almost like, well, why do we train the way we train? Well, it's because it's the way we always trained, and it's kind of that habit, and tradition of it, where it's like I look at guys like GSP and Mighty Mouse, and it's like, I've heard, I haven't gotten to train with those guys, but I've heard how their camps work, and it's like these guys are working reps so that fight night their body only knows one thing. They're not going in and biting down on their mouthpiece and getting into fights on some Wednesday afternoon. They're preparing to win a fight in one area of MMA, right? And it's difficult even for me, kind of being in control to a degree of what's going on. Me having my own gym, it saved my career. If I was sick, back in 2015, 2016, 2017, and I was at somebody else's gym, I probably would have sustained injuries that I would have ended my career. But since I was the one in control, I was able to, mitigate the risk. But yeah, it's hard. We need to learn how to prepare for fights in the safest way possible, because that's really the thing, and that's why I enjoy the opportunities to fight, because this is only 37, right? It's a lot, but in the grand scheme of athletics, it's not very many opportunities to show the world what I'm capable of. There's tons of techniques that I do and have done in the room and have done at a high level and drilled thousands of times that I haven't had the opportunity inside the octagon to show you guys yet. So it's really difficult to kind of balance everything, and you know, we do play a very risky game. So you know, doing it in the safest way possible is going to keep fighters' careers longer and maybe even prepare them better, in my opinion.
And last thing for me, as you said, you fought so many times, one of the most. Is there anything you feel like you haven't seen at this point? Do you feel like you've seen it all when it comes to fights?
Just about, you know. I mean, stylistically, there might be things that I haven't seen, but like, you know, that stuff's easy to get over. You know, like the stupid stuff, right? the feeling like garbage on fight day for whatever reason, and fighting through it and being able to pull it out, or you know, feeling that everything is great and then just it not being your night. Those are things that completely mess with people, and you know, I've been through those types of things, and I feel like the level of experience that I have, like, you know, I've got things that I can input, I think, into whether it be, you know, training styles or even equipment, honestly, that I think could honestly change the game, change the way we train, which is going to change the way we fight. So it's yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Started rambling.
Hey, Jim. Just one. Dustin Poirier kind of re-ushered in this popularity in the calf kick, and everyone's talking about, you know what? He's saying, man, because it hurt like when Jim Miller did it to me. What does that mean to you? Because obviously that's all the rage right now in training.
You know, the calf kicks are just one of those things that I started training that calf kick, cut kick is what we were calling it back in the day, back in 2012 for when I fought Nate. And unfortunately, one of those things, I shredded a muscle in my leg like 2 minutes into the fight, so it was difficult to be throwing those kicks. But you got to know that it's gonna hurt you too, right? Like you throw the calf kick, and it's not pleasant when you're landing it. I throw them in training, but it's more of like a check, because it's kind of a douchebag move to really blow somebody's calf out in training, because the shin guards don't really do anything. You know, I'll kick somebody in the thigh all day, but the calf kick you got to be a little bit easier on. But like for me, when I started training them, I mean, I used them against Lozon that first time, and I actually messed my shin up real bad, and it was I jumped right into the camp for Healy, and it like if I touched my shin for months there, it would swell up and be in pain, and so it's one of those things that like I was learned to throw it before my shins were conditioned that well, and then of course like over the years I've dealt with, you know, knee and shin injuries and foot injuries and toe injuries, so like then I'm not throwing as many kicks in training, so then it just doesn't come out in the fight, because we really are the product of those last couple of weeks leading up to a fight. Like, I mean, Dan Henderson will always have the H-bomb, but when he's 80 years old, it's going to come a lot slower, you know, and he's probably only got one, you know, in the tank. So that's just the way that it is. So like, yeah, so I haven't thrown them as much as I would have liked to, you know, especially he gives me that bump, that shout out about it. He did kick me first with it when we fought. He kicked me like twice, and I was like, wait a second, I can do that back. You know, but yeah, it's a difficult one, because you'll land it a little bit wrong, and then you're like, oh, I don't really know if I want to throw that anymore, and you kind of just got to decide to do it and push through it.
Thank you.